The limit of the product is the product of the limits. Simple catchphrase, but a rigorous proof is in order. And this video is an introduction to real analysis to help you master the rigorous concepts behind this statement here, which states that if an and bn are sequences of complex numbers, could also be real numbers, doesn't really matter, and the limit of n goes to infinity of an is a and the limit of n goes to infinity of bn is b, then the limit of n goes to infinity of an times bn, the product of the two sequences term by term, is equal to a times b. So we're going to rigorously go through the epsilon-delta definition of convergence and rigorously prove this statement here. Okay, so it's going to be a very fun video, and let's just dive right into it. So what we want to do is we want to understand how to prove that a and bn approaches ab as n gets really large. And we're going to have to rigorously make that into an epsilon n proof. Now, if you don't know what that is or you aren't comfortable with it, this video is an introduction to that as well. But we're going to do everything step by step. So let's start off with understanding this, okay? So we want to show a and bn approaches ab. So we're going to be very interested in the difference a and bn minus ab. So right now I'm not actually giving the proof, but I am in a way, but I'm starting off with the intuition, okay? So we want to show that as n gets really large, this becomes as small as we like, okay? And I'm going to state that in the epsilon n definition shortly. But first, let's try to understand what this difference is, okay? This is the intuition stage of our proof. How do we actually estimate this difference? Now we know that an approaches a, so we know we can make an minus a really small, and we know we can make bn minus b really small. How do we make that really small? So this is going to be a little trick, and I'll explain a motivation for it in another video as well, but I'll just state the trick. So the trick is we know that we can't actually factor something out, right? But what we can do is we can write this in the following way. A and bn minus a times bn, okay? So I'm going to take a times bn plus a times bn minus a times b. Now what we've done here is we've subtracted and added something to the expression, so it doesn't change the expression, but now we can actually estimate these two differences and show they're both small, and therefore the initial difference is small. And then we'll make that a rigorous epsilon n proof. But let's actually look at this more precisely. So we have a and bn minus a bn, and so what we can do is we can factor out a bn and we can write this as an minus a times bn. Okay, so this becomes really small, okay? And then we're going to add on a times bn minus b, okay? Now, it's very important that we can't just say limit n goes to infinity of this is 0, because we haven't yet proven, this law. Okay, this is a law that we take for granted, but we're now rigorously having to prove it. But by doing this, we can understand roughly how we're going to make each of these small, assuming n is sufficiently large, okay? So I'll state that precisely with the epsilon n definition, but assuming that, let's just look at the intuition first, because that's the most important. We can of course make an minus a small as long as n is sufficiently large, okay? And there is this times bn, which is a bit pesky. But the idea intuitively behind that is that bn is a convergent sequence, and convergent sequences are bounded. That requires a rigorous proof, and I'll direct you to a video on that after this one in case you're interested. But intuitively, okay, that's a statement we can prove. A convergent sequence is always bounded, which means that if this gets really small, our main worry is that if our bn goes to infinity or something, that product could become really large, right? So that would be an issue. But because bn is converging to a b, it's bounded, right? Intuitively speaking, you have a b, because bn converges to b, you take some kind of small, what we call a neighborhood of b, okay, with radius epsilon. That's going to be suggestive when I get to my epsilon n definition, and we can ensure that no matter what epsilon is, okay, so I'm kind of starting off with the epsilon n definition here, no matter what epsilon is, however small we take it, as long as it's a positive number, you can always choose an n, okay? So I'll say this way. For each epsilon greater than 0, there exists an n, a positive integer n, okay? Such that, I'll write this as such that n greater than or equal to n implies that the distance from bn to b is going to be less than epsilon. That means if you imagine b in the complex plane, as soon as we exceed that big n, which could be very large, okay, it doesn't matter how large it is, as long as it exists, we know that our bn's, our terms of our sequence, are eventually going to end up in this ball. And therefore, you can intuitively see that, the sequence has to be bounded, but that needs a rigorous proof. But you can intuitively see it there because all the previous terms are finite in number. But that video will do the rigorous proof that I'll direct you to at the end of this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to make this a rigorous proof, okay? How do we actually do this with our epsilon n definition that I talked about here? And it's going to be super fun, so let's actually get into that. All right, so let's now understand what we have to prove, okay? So here's what we have to prove. For each epsilon greater than 0, there exists an n, a positive integer n, okay? So n greater than or equal to 1. Such that n greater than n implies that the n greater than or equal to n implies that the distance from a and bn to ab is less than epsilon. That's what we want to prove. Now, it's very interesting. I just want to make a small point. Here I've said n greater than or equal to n. You could also say n greater than n in the definition. Then you adjust everything by a shift of 1 in the index. It doesn't really matter. I'm just doing this convention. So we just want to show eventually the terms of the sequence are within however much we want them to be of AB. For each epsilon greater than 0, we can find the n so that we can make the a and bn that close to AB, within epsilon of AB. No matter what epsilon we started out with, we can choose an n so that eventually the terms of the sequence beyond the big nth term are going to be that close to AB. And that's what it means for a and bn to limit to AB. Now we have to estimate this now, okay, this sum. We want to show how do we choose our big N so that this is less than epsilon? Okay, so we're going to do this in 2 steps, and I'm going to actually start off with this term because it's going to be slightly easier to see. So we're going to choose an N2, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose an N2. Okay, choose N2, okay? There are going to be 2 different choices we're going to make. The first one is N2 to make this small. So choose N2 such that the absolute value of Bn minus B is less than epsilon over 2 times the absolute value of A for n greater than or equal to N2. Okay, so you'll understand what I'm doing very shortly. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make this less than epsilon over 2 and this less than epsilon over 2, so the sum is less than epsilon in absolute value, okay? And absolute value, I'm referring to the modulus in the complex plane. I'm also calling it the absolute value. And so what we do is we know that because Bn converges to B, for this epsilon, it's not the original epsilon we're trying to start out with, but for any positive number, however small it is, which we're going to choose as epsilon over 2 absolute value A, we can choose our big N2 so eventually the terms of the sequence are within epsilon over 2 absolute value A of B, because the limit of Bn, n goes to infinity, is equal to B. Okay, so that's fine. Now because of that, we have that. What does that imply? So therefore, I'm going to write it as follows. Therefore, n greater than or equal to N2 implies that, so let's write this out, A times Bn minus B, which is the second term in that expression of A and Bn minus AB, A times Bn minus B is equal to the absolute value of A times the absolute value of Bn minus B, which we know is less than the absolute value of A times epsilon over 2 times the absolute value of A. And now the absolute values of A's cancel out in our inequality, so therefore this is just equal to epsilon over 2. Okay, this is going to equal to epsilon over 2, and that's going to be our first statement. Now actually I just realized, and I'm doing this video on the fly, but this is actually going to give some insight. I'm going to use this as an educational opportunity as well to give some insight into how we think about things, because this is very common in research math, that actually I just realized that this proof doesn't quite work when A is 0, because we can't divide by absolute value A, right? So there's going to be an issue there. However, it's important to note that in that situation, the statement we want is still true. We can still say the absolute value of A times Bn minus B is less than epsilon over 2 for any n. Okay, we can just take N2 to be 1, because if A is 0, this whole expression is just 0. Okay, so we can make that into a universal statement. We can say, okay, let's assume that A is non-zero first, and then we can ensure that this is true. We can ensure that there is an N2, so that n greater than or equal to N2 implies the absolute value of that term is less than epsilon over 2. And then if A is equal to 0, that's in fact the easier case. In that situation, the absolute value of A times Bn minus B is just going to always be 0, and so it's therefore going to be less than epsilon over 2 for all n. Okay, so either way, we found a big N2, so that for n greater than or equal to big N2, absolute value a times bn minus b is less than epsilon over 2. Okay, so you can split it into two cases according to a being 0 or non-zero. So that's a little bit annoying, but it's important sometimes, like as a research mathematician, many times when I'm writing out proofs, it's common for everyone, we sort of find these cases and it doesn't destroy the proof. You know, the idea is sound, but you just have to explain it in a way to handle these cases. It's kind of frustrating, but it's part of math, and it's just nice to know you can explain everything in one short way. So now we can ensure that this has absolute value less than epsilon over 2 for all n bigger than or equal to big N2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to handle this first term. We're going to get to that next. All right, so just to write out our summary, first of all, that n greater than or equal to big N2 implies that absolute value of a times bn minus b is going to be less than epsilon over 2. Okay, that's number one. And then number two, we're going to handle this case. Okay, so let's do that on this board right now. All right, so now let's understand how to handle this term, and this is going to be a little trickier. We can't do the exact same trick because our bn is now no longer constant, as I explained. Okay, so we're going to have to use what I talked about with our bn being bounded. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the following, is we know our bn is a convergence sequence, therefore bounded, which as I said will be explained in a follow-up video that I will link at the end of this one. But what we can do is we can use that fact to choose big M such that the absolute value of bn is less than or equal to, or let's say just less than big M. It doesn't really matter, less than big M, okay, so for all n greater than or equal to 1. And now what we want to do is use the fact that an approaches a, okay, so here's how we're going to write that out. So we've kind of effectively made the bn constant in some sense. We're using an inequality to bound it by some constant. So in that situation, our a was a constant, so we could just say epsilon over 2 absolute value a for bounding our bn minus b. Now we're going to do epsilon over 2m to bound our an minus a. So let's do that. Using the fact that an converges to a, I'm going to write it out as follows. We can find n1, okay, so we can find n1 at least 1, such that n greater than or equal to n1 implies that the absolute value of an minus a is less than epsilon over 2m. Okay, so that's what we have there, less than epsilon over 2m. So that's fine. So we've got that far. And now we know that therefore that term there, okay, that's what we want to bound. The absolute value of an minus a times bn is going to be, using the fact the absolute value of bn is less than m, okay, it could have even been a less than or equal to, it doesn't actually matter. But because of that, we know this is absolute value an minus a times the absolute value of b. And now we're almost there. That's going to be less than, absolute value an minus a is less than epsilon over 2m. So it's going to be less than epsilon over 2m times m, okay, which is the absolute value of bn is bounded. Okay, so here this should be absolute value of bn. And now we've got that far, we can say that this is going to be equal to epsilon over 2. So we've got epsilon over 2 as a bound for all n, okay, n greater than or equal to n1. We know that this absolute value is less than epsilon over 2. Okay, so now we're almost there, okay? Now we're almost there, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine the two to show our original statement that there is a big N, so that no matter what epsilon we chose, we already chosen our epsilon, we're going to show that for some big N, little n greater than or equal to big N implies that absolute value a and bn minus ab is less than epsilon. And we're going to use that decomposition there. So here let's go at it. All right, so let's now write it out. So I'm just going to say that, I'm just going to put absolute values here. Okay, so absolute value of this is equal to absolute value of this. Now we're going to use the triangle inequality. Okay, so this is less than or equal to the absolute value of an minus a times bn plus the absolute value of a times bn minus b. Okay, it's a triangle inequality for the absolute value. And now we know that if n greater than, I'm going to write it out, is n greater than or equal to the max of big N1 and big N2. Okay, the max of big N1 and big N2, which is still a finite number, beyond big N1 and beyond big N2, beyond big N1 we can make this less than epsilon over 2. We just did that. And beyond big N2 we can make this less than epsilon over 2. So beyond the maximum of the two, we can make both of those less than epsilon over 2. So if this is true, then therefore absolute value of a and bn minus ab is less than epsilon over 2 plus epsilon over 2, which is equal to epsilon. And that's our epsilon n proof. No matter what epsilon we started out with, we can ensure that for some big N, little n greater than or equal to big N implies the absolute value of a and bn minus ab is less than epsilon. I also want to give a huge thank you so much to Alex, Nathan, and Trang for their ongoing support on Patreon, and Enehoda and AJR for their ongoing support as a YouTube channel member. really makes a huge difference to the channel. So thank you so much. And if you'd like to support the channel, please consider checking out the links in the description. There are exclusive perks, including in Patreon, for example, access to a members-only Discord server, exclusive news and updates about my channel in advance. You can chat math with me and other members on the Discord server. Plus, there's also a personalized thank you message, and I'm extremely grateful for all the support there. It really adds up because right now I do everything on the channel on my own, in my free time, and I pay my own money for everything. So small contributions really make a huge difference to allow me to outsource a lot of work so I can really ramp up production, spend more time on it, and create tons and tons of exclusive content. I like to create complete courses as well, covering all the advanced math topics, outsource editorial work, and everything really helps. So if you're enjoying the content and you're gaining value from it consistently, small contribution would really make a huge difference. I'm going to direct you to another video now. So check out this video here for a proof that every convergence sequence is bounded rigorously that we used in this video to really complete the proof that the limit of the product is the product of the limits. And here's another fun video you're going to love. It's a proof that the closed interval is a compact topological space. And if you don't know what compactness means, this video is actually for you. It's for beginners in topology.